You get a little bit older, people start talking about fighting the Battle of the Bulge, but you know, the term's used so commonly for so long now that there's a lot of people, younger people especially, who don't even know there was a real Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And soon, there's not going to be anybody left who was actually there. But not yet. There are still veterans of the real Battle of the Bulge, and as long as they can, they're going to keep telling that story.
Of the 16 million Americans who fought in World War II, less than 4 million of them are still living. And those veterans are dying at an alarming rate of 1,100 a day. Here at Jefferson Barracks Memorial Park, a monument is dedicated to honor the bravery and sacrifice of those who fought and died in the Battle of the Bulge, the last great battle of World War II on the Western Front. But some St. Louis area veterans of the Battle of the Bulge are hoping to leave more behind than just a monument. It is their mission not to let the lessons of war be lost when they are gone.
They may lack a certain youthful spring in their step, but there is no lack of patriotism in their message. For almost 9 years, 4 teams of these veterans have made 270 visits to area schools. On this day, we followed a team as they visit Christine Marshall's 11th grade history class at John Burroughs School.
Very happy to introduce Jim Green and the veterans from the Battle of the Bulge.
Thank you, Christine. Good morning, young ladies and young gentlemen. We are soldiers who served in World War II, in particular in the Battle of the Bulge. You are looking at living history.
But on the morning of the 16th of December, a 5.5-hour artillery barrage, how many of you set off with a large firecracker? That went on for 5.5 hours. And the next thing we knew, the Bulge had started.
The Germans launched a surprise attack on the weakest part of the American line. 4 divisions fighting against an attack of 20 divisions.
In 24 hours, there were 10,000 casualties in my division.
Fought in the Ardennes forest of Belgium and Luxembourg, the Battle of the Bulge took place during the coldest winter in over 50 years.
Those easygoing young Americans fought for every foot, every yard, every mile in that bloody Ardennes. We stopped them in spite of cold, hunger, fatigue, confusion, much confusion.
But you heard the noise, you were dodging bullets, the enemy's bullets, because you were behind the infantry and with tanks. The snow was so deep, it was drifting. You could swear that it was 3 feet deep everywhere. Your food was frozen. The water was frozen. The kitchen truck could never get to you. So you had to devise ways to warm your food enough to where you could chew it, like setting it on the engine of your vehicle.
Dressed like a rifleman with a rifle. Now this piece of pipe is weighted down to be the weight of a rifle, and you can see...
A member of the 35th Infantry Division, Paul Neuhoff is the only one who still fits in his uniform. He has saved his original gear and collected more over the years. Neuhoff was actually wounded slightly just before the start of the Battle of the Bulge, but he rejoined his buddies as soon as he got out of the hospital. He still has plenty of stories to tell from the front.
You lead the battalion in the attack, so I was first scout out in cover of darkness, and I thought I was going to direct activities, so I didn't have any grenades. But as soon as I got across the bridge, they opened up off me with a machine gun, and I hit the dirt, and my weapon was plugged with mud, so I couldn't fire it. And so ever after that, I carried 2 grenades like this, and fortunately, never had another chance to use them. Now, you don't pull them with your teeth like they do in the movies. You pull them like
The teams now come armed with an additional teaching tool to leave with the class, a copy of their recently produced video, Everyday Heroes of the Battle of the Bulge.
Rusty is my husband. He was not at that time.
To explain what was happening on the home front, there is always at least one family member of a veteran on the team.
to be married.
Dorothy
but we
Pendleton
sort of had
is
an
Rusty's
understanding.
wife of over 50
And,
years.
I didn't date anybody else all the time he was gone. And so I eagerly awaited his letters, and I wrote him, not every day, but a lot. And we kept in touch with as much as we could, and sent pictures and news of home, and tried to keep up his spirits and those of all the other relatives and friends who were in the service.
Everyone wanted to be part of the war effort. Neighbors and family would babysit the children so the young women could go out and work. And my mom was a welder at the small arms plant in North St. Louis.
Barbara Avuski, Jim Green's daughter, was 5 years old when her father went away to war. She was surprised at how much she remembered once her father asked her to become a member of the team.
And one fun thing I remember, my Grandpa Powers had a big old red wagon, and we would take that wagon up and down the alleys and collect scraps for the scrap drive, and then it would be deposited at the end of the block, and the big trucks would come and take it away. So that was fun. The adults would buy war bonds, and they had great big war bond drives, and I remember those drives.
Shoulders held. The north shoulder.
The veterans had only 40 minutes to share their stories on this day, and they say they could easily go on for much longer. But their message seems to have made an impact on these students.
When you hear these men talking about it, you can tell that it was probably the defining experience of their lives, and you can see the emotion and the power coming through when they talk. And so I think it's very important when you hear something like this to understand how war impacts a country and a country's people.
You really have to stop and think, like, I mean, what if the fires of America, I mean, what if everyone wasn't so brave?
And I also especially liked the women who were involved in the speaking, because I think it's important to get the sort of civilian and the female perspective on an event that really did affect the whole world.
A sense of purpose and joyful camaraderie are evident in this team, and in each veteran there is a common thread in their motivation. They believe that if their sacrifice is remembered, it may save future generations from having to endure the horrors and the pain of war that they live to tell about.
I have a feeling sometimes that when you tell the truth about it, that it sounds so ridiculous and so unreal that you feel like the people think that you're lying to them, maybe. Because war is indescribable. The emotions and the sounds and the things that happens is chisels into your soul.
It's been a healing thing. It was very difficult for a number of years. But I think being able to share, to talk about it, is a cleansing kind of thing.
And I see that my dad, I think, is calmer about the time he was in the war and the war. I think it is a healing process for them.
It's a great feeling to know that you're passing on some history to some of these children, and I don't know how many we've had, probably more than 10,000 in our groups that we have given presentations to, and I just love to do it.
You know, these men, fought for us, even, 3 generations removed. They fought for those children as well, and they were the protectors of the United States, and we can't take them for granted.